Welcome back, Honors. Welcome back to it. Welcome back to your Flip Classroom and our now new discussion of something that's going to happen all up in the middle of World War I, right? Which is really, really weird when you think about it, okay? We're going to now start talking about our revolution and civil war that is going to occur in Russia. Now, we're going to have the main flip on this stuff after your sudden impact day, right? But we need to have like a 5-6 minute flip just discussing what's going to happen and one of the earliest causes of this insane revolution, right? So the revolution and civil war in Russia is going to be mainly characterized by this, right? We are going to see the transformation of Russia into what would later be known as the Soviet Union, right? And this right here is the image of the Soviet Union, right? And every single one of you needs this in your notes in some way, shape, or form, or you at least need to be able to tell me what the symbol itself actually means. What this symbol is a direct representation of the growth of communism during the late 1800s and also the early 1900s, and it is meant to represent the Communist Party of Russia in this new Soviet Socialist Republic, right? And the reason why it looks like this, and whoever was in charge of marketing for the USSR hit the nail on the head. You got to give them the credit. Like, this is a really, really dope symbol. But what it is, it's made up of two parts that are supposed to represent the Communist Party and the growth of communism in Russia. And what it is a sickle right here, right? And what a sickle is, it's used for reaping wheat, and then it's a hammer right there. The sickle represents farmers, the hammer represents factory workers, right? The lowest parts of society, right? The poorer echelons of society, the people that the Industrial Revolution kind of left in the dust, right? So the big thing that we have to understand is, starting off with the causes of the Russian Revolution, is the number one is the growth of communism, right? The growth of communism doctrine, and also the idea known as Marxism, right? Now, the first thing that you don't need to write down, you don't need to write down the socialism part, right? You have to understand that we've talked about socialism already, okay? Socialism is a thing that actually popped up post-French Revolution and put forward by guys like Henri de Saint-Simon and Charles Fourier, and their ideas were simple, right? Let's decrease the gap between the wealthy and the poor, right? Let's limit or abolish private property. Let's create systems with universal suffrage, right? Like to make sure that everyone's allowed to vote. Let's find ways to redistribute wealth, and let's create social welfare programs that are all backed by a strong government that can actually force and implement these products, procedures, and ideas to make sure that everyone has a fighting chance in the economy, right? Well, the thing about socialism, though, is that socialism does exist in our everyday society, right? There are elements of socialism throughout most parts of most westernized civilizations, right? For example, in America, there's socialist programs that include like public schooling, roads, infrastructural programs, right? Medicare, Medicaid, right? Things like that, right? Now, going into it, though, communism, on the other hand, is a dramatic intensification of this, right? So what communism is, it's an intensified version of socialism, right? If you took socialism and really juiced it up, you would eventually grow into what was known as a communist thought theory, right? Now, who created this is a guy named Karl Marx and his assistant, Frederick Engels, right? Frederick Engels was the guy with the money that did all the printing, and Karl Marx was the guy with the ideas. But he also workshopped these ideas with Frederick Engels, for any Frederick Engels fans that are out there on YouTube and stuff like that. The big thing about it, though, in general, is Karl Marx and Frederick Engels came together after meeting each other at a Paris economics conference, right? And they actually decided together that socialism doesn't go far enough, right? And they decided to sit down and create a new type of ism, and that ism would be known as communism. And then Frederick Engels would use his connections and his money to have their book printed, and their book was known as the Communist Manifesto, right? And it may be probably some of the most 200 important pages that Europe has ever seen written, right? Now, the crazy part about it is, it's actually for the worker, it's only really about 40 pages you need to read. And the other thing about it is, as well, is that it didn't really get very popular at first. It was originally written in 1848, but didn't really get popular until the 1900s after Karl Marx had already died. But the key premises of communism is the ideas of one class consciousness, right? Karl Marx believed that there were two, let me rewind that. Karl Marx believed that there were, oh my God, let me try again. Bang, bang, here we go. There we go. Karl Marx believed that all of a sudden, due to the Industrial Revolution, people had become conscious of their social class, right? That people knew where they were within society. They knew they were poor, or they knew they were wealthy, or they knew they were destitute, or they knew they had more than enough, right? And so the thing about it, though, is he cooked down the social classes into two basic ones, right? He was like, there is no middle class, upper class, and lower class. There is nothing but the proletariat and the bourgeois, right? And the proletariat is your workers, right? And your bourgeois is your wealthy, right? And so the thing about it, though, is that Karl Marx believed that it was the destiny of society for the proletariat to get so fed up with the hand that they had been dealt that they would be led to a violent revolution, right? That they would pick up armaments and pick up weapons and they would violently overthrow the bourgeois capitalist leaders and they would create a communist society, right? And that would lead to the abolishment of social classes. It would also lead to the collectivization of the means of production, right? That right there might be one of the most college like things I ever teach you, right? The collectivization of the means of production, what that basically means is Karl Marx theorized that once the proletariat rose up in a violent revolution, that they would actually collectivize large factories and collectivize large farms. Those are your means of production because the big factories and the big farms is how we produce things, right? And to collectivize it basically means to give it over to the government who would then actually run and regulate it and then chop it up into a million little pieces and then give it to the people to redistribute property and wealth to prevent very, very large-scale capitalists from hoarding resources to themselves, right? And then if that was accomplished, that would lead to an abolishment of money, abolishment of private property, and eventually Karl Marx theorized as well as the abolishment of religion, as he coined, him and his later followers coined it, the opiate of the masses, right? And so basically he said that religion was just yet another thing that actually divvied up people into social classes. But that right there is the earliest parts of the Russian Revolution you need to know going into like our sudden impact day. But I'll see y'all soon. Y'all have a good one.